Hirsch. I'm Leslie Hirsch. I serve as the Assistant Commissioner of the Office of Research and Information at the Department of Labor and Workforce Development. And I think everybody here may know Stephanie. Stephanie, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves? Self.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Thatchik. I serve as Senior Advisor here at the New Jersey Office of the Secretary of Higher Education.
So welcome to today's technical assistance session. Lots of names that I recognize, and I look forward to getting to know some more of you as well. So as many of you are already aware, that the Office of the Secretary of Higher Education and the New Jersey Department of Labor formed an interagency group to stand up the Workforce Pell program. On July 1 of this year, the governor must submit a list of programs to the U.S. Department of Education that will be eligible to receive this new source of federal financial aid. To meet this aggressive timeline, OSHI, the Department of Labor, and the other agencies have decided to do the most we can to include as many programs in this first year of implementation in an effort to provide the broadest range of high-quality programs for training and career seekers in the state, while ensuring that we adhere to the statutory guidelines. So what that means, if you'll pardon my metaphor, is that we are going to have to go to war with the army that we have. This means that we are going to be we'll be relying on New Jersey's unique eligible training provider list infrastructure. Many of you know that as the ETPL. So I'm going to be referring to this as the ETPL going forward. And currently, there are more than 4,500 programs on the ETPL, and they're featured on the Training Explorer, a website that is visited by more than 2,000 people every week. The underlying data comes from New Jersey Department of Labor's IntelliGrant system, also known as IGX, which I'll be referring to and be giving you a demonstration of in just a bit. So going forward, we'll be more ambitious about refining our policies, improving our data systems, expanding the portfolio of training programs, and developing helpful customer-facing tools. But for now, the purpose of today's call is to provide as much information as possible to help Title IV eligible institutions in the state have their non-degree programs assessed for eligibility for Workforce Pell this year. So we'll dedicate the first portion of the meeting to presenting an overview of the approach, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail on the mechanics of actually submitting your data. So here is the agenda. If I can manage to make the slide move, here we go. We want to be respectful of your time and give you the maximum value. So we'll start with a review of the data collection approach that was outlined in the March 31st memo that Stephanie and I have sent out to a number of providers. But we'll go a bit deeper to give you a better sense of the data collection requirements than you saw in that memo, and that you can expect to encounter as you're trying to submit your programs. We'll then turn to IGX, IntelliGrants, to give you a walkthrough of the application, including some tips and tricks from our experiences with previous users of the application. After allowing for some Q&A, we'll then go through what to expect over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So I will turn it back over to Chad and Stephanie to go ahead and get a poll in. We can get a little bit more of a sense of who you are and where you stand with respect to submitting your programs. Fingers crossed. Two questions on the poll. Which one best describes you? And I hope that these are mutually exclusive and exhaustive, but do your best, please, if I didn't manage to get good questions up here. So are you just here to learn? Are you here because you plan to submit additional programs? Or are you here because you already have programs on the ETPL and you want to understand how we're going to be assessing them? So please do go ahead and answer that question. And then the $64,000 question is, do you collect student level data with Social Security numbers? Yes, no, or just NA, not applicable. So I'm still seeing the poll. Stephanie, if you don't mind, or Chad, when you get poll figures in, feel free to go ahead and share them as I'm going to go ahead and close my poll and not vote.
Should now have the results being shared with everyone.
Yes.
Perfect.
So it looks to me like we're fairly equally distributed across people just here to learn, people who actually plan to submit. We've got 18 people on the call who are planning to submit. And then we've got 26, quite a few, who are already on the ETPL and want to understand how we're working with their data. That's great to know. So I think it's going to be difficult for me to be able to reach you all, but I'll do my very best. It just disappeared, Chad, so I can't see it anymore. Ah, there we go. Okay. And then yes, 74% of you collect Social Security numbers. Congratulations. And the 6 of you who say you don't, I'm presuming that you know that you're going to need to, or that you're interested in possibly collecting those Social Security numbers so that you can participate in the program going forward. Thank you so much for that. So this slide is a snapshot of the measures that are outlined in the law, in Workforce Pell law, which was part of the Budget Reconciliation Act, HR 1, passed last July 2025. So I won't read them through, but I will just briefly say, there is a length limitation. The programs need to be within a certain range of clock hours and length of time in weeks. It needs to be aligned. Your program needs to be aligned with an in-demand occupation. It needs to be offered for at least a year before we send the list to the U.S. Department of Education. It needs to be either online or in person. Correspondence courses are not eligible, and we can provide a definition of that. And then you'll need to have achieved a 70% completion rate within 150% of the normal time. You have to have a 70% employment rate within 6 months after completion. And then there is a bit more here around credential attainment, that it leads to a post-secondary credential that is stackable and portable. And credit articulation pretty much is that it's a stackable credential. I'm going to go ahead and suggest that at this point, because we have so many people here, that as we go along, if people could go ahead and put their questions in the chat, and I'll ask Stephanie and Tom if they could please keep an eye on the chat, and I'll pause before we do the demo. And then I'll pause during and after the demo to make sure that we can address your questions. So what's meant by in demand? Well, this is, those of you who may not be aware, we've got a statewide in-demand occupations list. It's something that every 2 years, our team at the Department of Labor issues an in-demand occupations list. But it's also, and that's also based on statewide labor market information. Just by way of background, the law does allow us to choose the Perkins definition of high skill, high wage, and in demand, or the WIOA definition. And working with the Department of Education, this interagency group has all agreed that the Perkins definition of high skill, high wage, and in demand is really only appropriate to high school graduates. At this point, we do not have a workable definition for adult training seekers. So every 2 years, as I said, we reanalyze our labor market information. Right now, there are 153 occupations on the list, and employment in these occupations makes up about 40% of total employment in the state. There are also ways of obtaining a local or regional waiver to admit a new occupation to the list, in recognition that some occupations are in demand in Atlantic County, but may not be in demand, for example, in Warren County. The first is by obtaining 2 letters from employers attesting to the demand for that particular occupation. And the second is by finding the occupation in question in local labor market information that we will make available to you. Please note that you will need to work with your local workforce development board to submit these waiver requests. And you're probably wondering, how am I going to get all this stuff? And here's the answer. When you get this deck after today's presentation, you will have links to the statewide in-demand occupation list. You will also have a link to instructions for, well, first you'll have a link to the current local and regional waivers that are in place, instructions on how to submit a local or regional waiver, and to a list of your local workforce development board directors so that you can work with them if you'd like to get this waiver in. Again, time is very tight here. And so if you do plan on trying to get a waiver in that's not already in, we're going to ask that you communicate with us as much as possible. So here's the overview of how we plan to approach data collection. The first piece is, as mentioned earlier, we're using the ETPL system, which is in New Jersey at this point the richest source of information about short-term career-oriented programs / non-degree. Many of us really do not love the non-degree nomenclature because it defines something as what it's not, whereas career-oriented programs is defining the actual purpose of the programs. Until now, participation in the ETPL has been used to qualify your institution and its programs for one of two things. If your program is in demand, ETPL participation allows eligible WIOA customers, those are Workforce Information and Opportunity, Innovation and Opportunity Act customers, to obtain a partial or full tuition subsidy, known as an individual training account or an ITA. ETPL participation is also a requirement to obtain a state-funded training grant from NJDOL. Many of you already participate in one of NJDOL's many state-funded grant opportunities. So if you aren't on the ETPL, but you are in a grant opportunity, congratulations, you already have an account in IntelliGrants, or also known as IGX. So otherwise, the first thing you'll need to do is to register for an account in IGX. Once on, you'll initiate an ETPL application under your My Opportunities menu and identify your organization and its users. You'll need then to enter basic information about yourself as an organization and your programs. And based on that application, we're going to get back to you to line 1, right? That's lines 1 and 2. You'll enter your programs, give us your basic program information, and then before we get to line 3, we'll get back to you and let you know, does it look like you have eligible programs? So for example, let's just say one of you has one program and it is 650 hours long. Regardless of everything else about that program, it will not be eligible, and we'll let you know at that point, this won't be eligible, it's not worth your going forward, we're not going to collect any further data from you. If you are eligible, the next stage for you is going to be, you will receive a link from Chad and me. Chad, who is the Director of Research at the Office of Secretary of Higher Ed. If you can wave, Chad, so everybody can see you. Chad and I will send you a link to a survey. These are new data points that are not part of IGX, and they were things that we just didn't measure before as part of our ETPL. But we're obviously going to need to measure those in order to determine your eligibility. And then based on that, we would then take all of your student data, send it over to our partners who run the state longitudinal data system. And just so you know, this is the John J. Heldrick Center of Workforce Development at Rutgers, who partners with OSHI and DOL and a number of other agencies to run an interagency shared longitudinal data system. We have released their research agenda for the spring so that they can focus on doing exactly this work. And so once we've gotten all of the eligible programs determined, your student data in, we'll run that data and we'll come up with a list. The student data we're going to ask for, I'll go through in just a quick second. I thought I would just pause here before moving forward to see whether there are any questions.
Yes, Leslie, we have quite a few questions in the chat. Most of them have already been answered, but I think it would still be helpful to share some of these out loud. One of the questions was, what if job placement data is not collected? Chad shared a little bit about how we'll be using the UI data to measure job placement and employment outcomes, but maybe if you could talk just a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So you're not responsible for measuring your employment outcomes. We will do that for you. The New Jersey Department of Labor collects something called wage records, happy to have a conversation to get into the weeds on wage records. It's one of Paul's and my favorite topics. But wage records cover everybody who is in who is covered under unemployment insurance. And so that essentially means we have the Social Security number and the wages paid to every individual who is in unemployment insurance covered employment. When you send us that social, we're going to go ahead and match it with those wage records. And I'll get into a little bit more detail because there's even more exciting news to come around what we can do with that.
Thank you. And we'll also compile these questions to share out some kind of frequently asked questions document or resource as well too. But we are getting some questions about kind of the Workforce Pell parameters. We've gotten questions about one, if the program meets the length guidelines, would credit bearing certificate programs be eligible? As noted, as long as you're meeting all the other Workforce Pell requirements and it's not eligible for regular Pell, then yes, it should be, but there might be some of those caveats as we're looking through and reviewing the programs, which will be part of the data submission questions that you have as well. Anything else that DOL wants to add in regards to that response?
No, you got it.
Okay. We also have received questions about programs that are already in the E2PL. There again, as just shared, there will be some additional steps in which you'll have to share additional information for consideration for Workforce Pell. So more information to come. We do have another kind of tricky question just about length of time. If we have a program on ETPL and are adjusting the length of time to fit within the criteria, but not changing anything else, does this qualify if the program has been in existence for a year? And then some other questions about that length measurement. I would note that we are still seeking a little bit of clarity in this. This is one of, we submitted a comment on the negotiated rules saying that if we as a state would appreciate clarity on that maturity metric. So I don't know that we can say kind of with certainty at this time, but we'll continue to work with you if you want to follow up with us and hopefully have more clarity from the U.S. Department of Education there. But anything else my colleagues want to add in regards to the maturity metric?
Yeah, I think we do have a kind of general understanding of how the U.S. Department of Education wants to implement this, which is that the program needs to have been eligible for Workforce Pell for a year. So that means if you adjust the length of time to become eligible, then it's at that point that the 12-month clock starts ticking. So that means that if your program is currently 140 clock hours and you adjust the length of time to be 160 clock hours, you would not then be eligible, even if the program has been in operation for a year already, because you became eligible at the point where you adjusted time. And so that will then start the 1 year clock ticking. That's my understanding. But as Stephanie says, so much depends on the regulatory interpretation, which is a little bit up in the air now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that comports with the discussions that we've been having with many colleges about their intended changes. But I think, again, I'll just agree that that one is to be determined. But the bright side answer for the person who asked that question is that if you adjust it now, next year, especially if you do it before June 30th, next year you might be eligible.
Perfect. And I know we have quite a lot to fill to continue with. So I'm going to have us move along with the presentation. We'll continue to save and respond to these questions as well, because a lot of them are kind of about the metrics and the measures as well, if that works. Perfect. Thank you. You're on mute, Leslie.
Thank you. It's only been years since we've been doing this. So that works. I think we'll try to make time at the end if there's any. So what programs should you be entering to IGX? And we're going to ask you to try to, use your own judgment here. Do an internal assessment at your institution of whether you believe that you are going to fit the eligibility criteria that were listed on that first slide that gave you an overview. And then if yes, if you have student data, then you should submit it. So the answer to both of these questions should be yes. Yes, I think I fit the eligibility criteria, and yes, I think I have student data, in which case you should submit your programs. student data. This is not the most recent version of this slide, I don't think. Okay, so the quarterly student data that we're asking for, these would be files that I'm going to show you in just a little bit what they look like, that you're going to be uploading either to IGX or you'll be sending over to OSHI. You have that option if you'd rather not upload them or you have difficulty uploading them into IGX. But what we're looking for are 4 quarters of student data with social security numbers and the program name, such as it appears on IGX. Really important for you to have that program name. A lot of people had submitted excuse me, unusable student data this past year. So we need to make sure that program name is on so that we can then assign the student outcomes to your program. And all this other information is also in there. Again, I'll show you that template. The template exists in IGX. If you decide you want to not do this through IGX, we're giving you the option of doing it in a different way, and we will have to send you that template. So that means that you'll need to crosswalk whatever your data system is with what we're asking for. Again, really want to point out to you that this is the period of time. And my colleagues know that I can't stand talking about cohorts because it's terribly confusing. But ultimately, what we need to do is we need to establish those 6-month employment outcomes. And so we looked at the most recent 1 year that we could possibly match to wage records. And that year ends on June 30th, 2025. That means the 6-month employment outcomes that we'd be looking for anybody who completed at the end of that year would be December from the 4th quarter of 2025. And that's the most recent data that we have available. So again, very important that we would be looking for 4 quarters of information from July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. The descriptive program information is fairly self-explanatory, but these are the types of information that we'd be looking for in IGX if you don't already have it. And then some of this other information that is, more Workforce Pell specific, we did not actually collect previous to Workforce Pell. And so those are going to be in a Qualtrics survey that you'll receive from Chad and me. These are questions around maturity, whether it's a correspondence course or not, the percent that's delivered by a non-eligible institution, and so forth. The things that will either establish that you're not or you are eligible. And then this is a little bit of a sales pitch. It's many of you believe that it may be a pain in the neck for you to be on the ETPL. Well, one thing I just learned is that a rule was just passed under WIOA that's going to require all Workforce Pell programs to be on the ETPL. So it's, even though I just created this slide deck yesterday, the latest version of the slide deck yesterday, this is an absolutely new rule. And the beauty of it is that we're using the ETPL anyway in New Jersey. So you are going to be on it. But you'll be if you're aligned to an in-demand occupation, these ITAs will be available to you. So that means that people can come to you with tuition subsidies. You'll get, I mentioned 2,000 active users a week. It's actually the correct number is 2,500. That's more up to date. And you'll have that broad exposure that being on the Training Explorer avails you. Every program has a unique link. So now you can share that unique link out with other people. If you want to market your program, this is a program webpage. We like to think that it's a really big boon for you that you're going to get outcome measurement and no cost to you. I think that's something that a lot of us in the workforce development world and the career development world really care about, wanting to know how we're doing, and we'll be able to establish that for you. And we also are publishing all of our ETPL outcomes on the Credential Registry, which is an open source, internationally recognized open source educational credential platform. And do you think we can pause for more questions while I set up?
Yes, if you don't
Maybe a minute or
mind.
two. Yeah.
So we received a question regarding, could you please expand on the articulation agreement option and pathway? And as part of the negotiated rules, the states do have to develop a written policy in regards to several of the parameters, including stackable and articulation. So the state has currently drafted a policy that includes a definition, key considerations, and metrics to consider, which include just a former credit articulation agreement or written institutional policy, because it can be accepted by the same institution as well if it's for credit and stackable. And additional information in regards to some of the flags Leslie shared as well, the name of the partner institution or self, the number of academic credits accepted, receiving course applied to, and named of aligned credentials. So you will see that in the follow-up if your program data indicates that it seems to be eligible for Workforce Pell. And again, we're kind of building the plane as we fly it with this quick timing. So we do anticipate that these policies will be shared with everyone too. Anything else anyone wants to add? Chad, did you want to add anything to that in regards to the stackable and credential?
No,
Okay.
I would just add that we in this survey for programs that get through the first sort of phase of being entered into IGX's platform, that we will ask if you have for a specific, this is more targeted for we hate to use this term, but non-credit program
Mhm.
that leads to some sort of credential. If you have an already existing articulation where whether it's at your institution, from non-credit to credit to some sort, credit bearing certificate or degree, you can indicate that on the survey, as well as if you have any formal agreements that the program leads to with another institution. Those will be questions that you can answer and upload documents in the survey. Um,
Okay.
And I will say,
I-
just as a follow-up, the draft policy will include key considerations or best practices, because again, there's a lifetime limit on Pell. So that is a key provision to ensure that it is truly stacking to help accelerate their time to degree as well. So just wanted to flag that that will also be included. We have another question, just if there are programs on the ETPL offered by the local tech school in partnership with the community college, could that be an eligible program if it meets all other criteria?
I think I will get back to that one after considering it, because I'm not 100% sure, and I think there may be a few variations on that kind of arrangement. So apologies for not being able to address that immediately. But why don't I dive into that, if that's okay, Stephanie? I just looked down and saw it's 10:30. I want to make sure we're giving everybody their money's worth today. And before I jump in, I do want to just announce that I think we have, I hope we have Brandy Morehouse, who's our project executive from Agate Technologies, Agate Software, who's the vendor who created this customized ETPL solution, joining us today. We also have Deshawn Granville and Tasha Gaddy, who oversee our training evaluation unit. They're here because they want to hear your questions and see the way you will be seeing this system for the first time, so that they and their team can be helpful to you. So I don't know if everybody's on camera, but if we could do the Brady Bunch wave, everybody, that would be great. So this is your login page, and you'll also have this login link on the deck. And this is what it would look like. And if you're just logging in for the first time, here's your new user, click here, and it will ask you for a number of pieces of information from there. Once you log in, I'm not going to log in as me because that will then show you live information, but I'm going to go to the test site where I will log in as me, just because I know I just lied, but it's a tricky little Zoom menu at the top. So you can see I'm spinning here. Hopefully it's going to log in quickly. Okay. Oh no, of course that happened. I'm getting my two-step authentication here. So unfortunately, what you won't see right now is something that I will have to show you in the test environment. So back to home here in the test environment, you will have a menu. You can play around with your menu. You can edit. That's called your dashboard. You can edit your dashboard, but the main thing you're going to want to look for is My Opportunities. And under My Opportunities, you're going to be, this is a test environment, you're going to go ahead and you're going to select ETPL application. And all of this, by the way, is going to be in a manual, which you also will have a link to in this deck. I'm going to just jump right in to an application and what it will look like for you so that I can walk you through it. recent documents. So I've started an application, or my team has started an application, which I can't see now, called Tech School 1. And this is what it looks like when you're looking at it, not from your perspective, from the test perspective. So you have a document landing page, and on the document landing page, it tells you you're in an ETPL application. Otherwise, it will tell you you're in a grant application, in which case you've not done the right thing and you need to go back and start an ETPL application. What's your document number? That's going to be really important in communicating with people, because that's the way we'll know you. The name of your school is Tech School. When you go in the first time, you will be asked to give a bunch of information about your organization and who your authorized users are, so that we can keep track of who's doing what in your organization. This is your overall snapshot of where you are. You're in application approved status. And your specialist is Tasha Gaddy, who's also on the call, and Tasha hasn't updated her phone number on IGX, Tasha. So we need to get that done. But everybody else, all our specialist phone numbers, these are their voice over internet protocol desktop phones that will be published on here so you can reach them. But I will also show you the preferred way to reach them. This is somebody who apparently yesterday finished their application, because yesterday, 2028, 2 years from yesterday, is the date that they're expired. And they are considered provider ID 1. And essentially, the way you're going to operate in this environment is you're going to go ahead and start from the very top, if you're in an initial application, and work your way down the blue menu on the left side. So you'll fill out provider 1, which is basic information. This information at the top looks like you can't fill it out. The reason is because it's just populating with the way you appear in your organizational overview when you first logged in. But here's all the other information we're asking for. It's not terrible. It's just who's your contact information? What are you? Are you a public, private, nonprofit, or are you something else? Provider information 2 is much the same, although there's a little bit more information about the kind of services you offer. This was filled in by the team at Agate, so it may or may not make 100% sense from a college perspective. But I will tell you, I mean, these are the questions, and these are the kinds of information that are then surfaced on the New Jersey Training Explorer about your organization. That you offer customized training services, that you are accessible to people with disabilities, that your programs are offered in Spanish or whatever other language you have, and how to get to your program. I'm going to skip vendor information because that one really is much more important for other types of programs. I'm really going through, and I think Nancy will kill me if I don't say it, that right now, the menu and the application that I'm going through is called the Eligible Training Provider application. If you are a private career school and you are not on IGX, I would thank you very much for coming to this webinar. But if you are not already licensed by the state of New Jersey, at this point is not the time to get started. You can absolutely get started. We welcome new applications all the time, and we want to bring you into compliance. But at this point, a private career school application is just very involved, and we would not be able to process that in time in order to establish your eligibility. So we're really focusing today on colleges and other institutions that are governed by another agency. So another example of an institution governed by another agency would be, say, a cosmetology school. The Board of Cosmetology oversees the full institution. There may be other federal or state agencies that oversee schools as institutions. And if you have any questions about whether that describes you, then please, I ask you to go ahead and send an email to me, and we will respond to you immediately. Here's the pièce de résistance. That's where you enter your programs. You're going to be asked to add a program. And when you go into your first page, we'll then give you the opportunity to fill out this basic information about your tuition, fees, and so forth. Very self-explanatory. When you get to the bottom of the page, one thing I think Brandy would kill me if I didn't say is make sure you're hitting save as you go along. Notice I don't have a save button because I'm not editing this application, but I can then go ahead and add a new program if I want to at this point, and then go ahead and save that. Notice that I can not necessarily work my way through the left side here on the blue menu. I can also just keep going through the bottom of, I will allow you the next form. Performance data asks you to attest that you have performance data. There's a provider agreement that basically says that you're agreeing to behave and operate in a way that is actually abides with the laws of the state of New Jersey and the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. We'll most likely be updating this after Workforce Pell to make sure that we've got that agreement reflecting whatever is required under Workforce Pell. And then again, here's another pièce de résistance. After you've entered all your program information, we're going to ask you to actually, this is very important. I'm going to show you. Do not fill these out. Just check that you are a college and put the name of your college. Do not put an expiration date because you do not have an expiration date on OSHI's licensing of you as a college. Whatever you do, this is what, feel free to take a snapshot of the screen, the name of your college, and check here that you are a college. That's all we want on this page, which is the required documents page. If you're renewing, it's very, very similar. I would go into some tips and tricks around change requests, but it's really at this point not enough time for you to go and make any changes. And if you make a thing that is a call to change, at this point, you probably are going to be rendering your program as ineligible. I'm looking for how to add a report. Here we go. So as you can see, Agate was kind enough to actually upload 4 quarters of reports for me, so I can show you what those look like. I thought I could. Well, I have something else prepared for this eventuality, so let me share my screen one more time.
You are in the quarterly report document here, Leslie.
Oh, it came in? Okay, great.
Yep. Just scroll up and you'll see the quarterly report specific forms and upload tools.
I'm on the document landing page now.
Scroll up in that navigation menu on the left, that blue menu. There's some forms up above there you go. So where
There
it
we
says,
go.
yes.
Got you. So it's actually showing, it will show it in the quarterly report. And as you can tell, I don't get into these detailed quarterly reports myself. Thank you, Brandy, for hopping on and saving me. But you can see one person at a time. That's one way you can do it. If you have a small number of students, you'll want to enter them one person at a time. Regardless of how you upload it, it's going to appear this way once you upload it. So this is something that, so for example, tech school uploaded 4 quarters, and the first student on the first quarter that I just clicked on was George Clooney with this social security number, and lives in Woody Allen, New Jersey. I can see that somebody had a sense of humor. Appreciate that. So, okay. I also am going to show what the actual template looks like. And it's just a plain old Excel spreadsheet, folks. And here's a list of the fields. So this will go out to you as well after this meeting. I have highlighted the things to me that are the most important for us to be able to determine your eligibility, the student social, the official name of your program as it's listed in the ETPL, what date the person enrolled, if they complete it in this quarter, what day did they complete? And if there's an exit date, it's the same as the completion date, then that would be somebody who completed. But if somebody exited but didn't complete, dropped out, for example, we'll want that exit date as well. And whether they attained a credential, if they attained a credential, what credential they attained. And here we have the list also provided of those credentials. It's in a dropdown on the student data form. And those are the most important things. So we want everything from you. Absolutely. We really want all of it. But we absolutely, at a minimum, must have these pieces of data. How are we doing on time? So I'm going to go back and see. Brandy, did you want to suggest that I do anything else at this point? I know that was a very quick overview of IGX.
Maybe we just want to point out where you would upload those spreadsheets. So if you want, Leslie, I can kind of talk you through if you can
Please
navigate.
do. Yep.
So if you see
Here.
over here, yep, on the menu, there's a number of menu items under ETP report. Yes, so quarterly report import. This is an upload tool. You'd click that here button to download that Excel template that Leslie was just showing, the where you see in red. You'd have to download the template first, fill it out, and then upload it. And then the system will import that information, filling out one of those quarterly report forms for every student that you had listed.
Can people still see my screen at this point, my IGX screen? Great.
Yes.
So I don't know if the drop down is showing, but my download showed that I downloaded something called 5136089 quarterly report. That's the exact same template. It should be the exact same template by the time you get there, if it's not already.
Yep. So you would download, enter all of your information, click the browse button to actually upload the file, and then use the download click to import the data.
Sounds good. So I think that there were a few people who were letting me know that they were trying to do multiple quarters because they had not submitted their student data earlier. And I believe that this is something that is going into production today, Brandy. We were only
Yep,
allowing one
I-
quarter of data at a time. Go
I
ahead.
just checked into it while we were on the call here and can tell you that all 4 quarters are available to be initiated now, so you can work on them all simultaneously.
Thank you. That's a change that our vendor is making for us. So thank you very much.
A quick
Yeah.
follow-up question. Is that also where the data for the consumer report card gets entered? Yes. Okay.
So,
Fantastic.
well, no, yes and no, because that data then goes back and goes into our little Rube Goldberg machine. We then connect it to wage records. And here's the piece that I think everybody would be excited about, or at least those of you who are in the Philly or New York City metro area. We are able to also access out-of-state wage records. So because it's on the eligible training provider list, we have access to something called the State Wage Interchange System, SWIS. So about 13 to 15% of our population in New Jersey or our labor force works outside of the state. So it's very important to us that we are able to get those out-of-state wage records. Once we make that match, we use a secure file transfer protocol to send that over to Heldrick Center, and then they do the number crunching for us. And then they send us back and is ingested into IGX and up to the Training Explorer. So I will show you really quick because I think it's super important. One more share. So I did pre-populate. Please, Lord, let me find my screen. The wrong screen. Okay. So the Training Explorer. So for those of you who haven't seen it, now is not the time to give you a demo, but this is where there are more than it says more than 4,000, but it's actually more than 4,500 training programs. So I'm not going to demo that now, but we're very proud of it, and I hope that you enjoy being shown on that site. So I'm going to go back to my deck to reorient myself because I think there were a couple of other things that I needed to walk you through. If only I could actually figure out how to move it.
We have your slides now, Leslie, IGX
Good.
demo.
So tips and tricks, I think this is really important. Maybe we don't have time if we want to have Q&A, but I will just tell you these are really massive, massive important things for you because these are the biggest problems that people run into. I can't save this application. The reason you can't save an application, only reason would be is if it's in review. If it's in review, that means Tasha, Deshawn, and our team have the application. If it's in process, it's with you, and you should have a save button. You see a big exclamation point next to something means there's an error. If you need to contact your specialist, the best way to do it is to use the document messaging tool, which I did not show you, but it operates very much like an email. system within IGX. It allows us to keep track of all of the communications, but because we're really on a big rush at this moment, especially those of you who are not new and are trying to just get new things in, I'm going to suggest that you go ahead and you use that phone number of your specialist. Tasha will update her phone number so that it's not 999. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Tasha. Don't forget to save, don't forget to submit. And when you submit, really appreciate if you could let us know so that we give you priority that this is a Workforce Pell application. And some very important links, the training manual, the login page, and a web page for ETPL providers on NJDOL's website. There we go. I think we're finishing close to on time.
All right.
So
We
happy to
have
take some questions.
a few more questions. Some of them are very specific to a DOL, so we'll follow up on some of those questions regarding status of those already on ETPL. Could you share a little bit from what other states are you able to obtain wage data? All states or only select states? Would our job placement rate be limited to students residing in those states?
No, only students were residing in New Jersey. We were actually not even collecting the, the social security numbers of students who reside outside the state. If you mention we do have an address field. If you tell us that a person's outside the state, we're not going to be matching their wage records. That's the only no side, but the other side is a big yes, which is every state. So if somebody is living in New Jersey, attended your program, and got a job in California, we will be able to find their wage record. It's all 50 states that we share that data with.
Perfect. I'm going to give people just another minute or two to put questions in the chat. We do have a couple open ones, but again, I think they're very user specific. So we will share those with our colleagues at DOL to get follow up in regards to the ETPL system.
I think
All
for
right.
those of you who have actually submitted your programs, but did not submit your student data, we have already determined that, or we have preliminarily determined you're not eligible because we don't have student data. So we're going to need to have you put that student data up if you have it, and we need you to contact us. I don't have a special email address, so I know I'm really asking for it, but I think what we're going to want to do is I'm going to put this email address. Hopefully everybody can see this email address. Because if you send it to me, I might miss it, but if you send it to this email address, that's training evaluation unit at dol.nj.gov. That's the same one that was in your data collection memo. We have somebody who's monitoring that multiple times a day, especially if it has the words Workforce Pell or WFP in it, it's going to get shot right over to us. So any questions or notifications around uploading your student data or questions that, around getting your program assessed for student data, for eligibility, please, 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 please send it to training evaluation unit at dol.nj.gov.
And again, I just want to quickly reiterate the time-sensitive deadline. Again, recognize we're moving quick. This is an aggressive time frame. There will be future ability to submit information as well, but we really need program and student data from your institution by May 1st, 2026. All eligible eligible institutions did receive a memo. If you are having trouble accessing the memo, you can feel free. I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. Because again, that is a key deadline of May 1st, 2026. So we can do our initial submission on the July 1st, 2026 date to the U.S. Department of Education as well.
Part of the reason Stephanie had to say that is because I skipped the last slide. So the last slide goes over submit your program information right away. We are going to try to turn around if we're alerted to the fact that you've submitted a new program, we're going to try to turn it around within a week. So once we turn it around and we determine that you meet the preliminary requirements, we'll send you a survey. And then the next piece is going to be to get your student data uploaded. all of that, as Stephanie just said, has to be done by May 1st. We're going to do our absolute best to get back to you and to turn things around as quickly as possible. We've got to get the eligibility determinations to the governor's office with enough time for the governor's office to be able to review it, ask us questions, be able to make amendments and go back. So we need to get it to the governor's office by June 1. So we really need, and that gives us a very, very short time frame to do all the data collection and analysis and compilation and wage record matching. It's giving us a month to do that. So we appreciate your short turnaround time, and thank you for participating, and hopefully we get some more programs onto this list.
And then we had go ahead, Steph.
Go ahead. I just want to note, we did have a few questions that were very case specific, but they were submitted anonymously. So if you could either reach out to Stephanie.Vachik, I can follow up in regards to some of those ETPL questions as well. Tom, do you want to go ahead and take the next question if you don't mind?
Yeah, is the submission only on a yearly basis? If we miss this July 1st, do we wait until 2027?
Well, it means if you miss this July 1st, it means the next time you will be, there's an annual eligibility list. And the programs that are eligible for Workforce Pell get updated every year on July 1. And so if you've missed this one, for example, you have something that's 605 hours and you need it to be 599, you can change it now, and then assuming everything else is aligned with the Workforce Pell eligibility, you may be able to be deemed eligible for the next school year. This eligibility deadline is for September 2026 through June 2027. I hope I answered your question.
And then a related question, if our programs have been on the ETPL for years, but we only began requiring socials in January, will the programs be eligible?
If you do not have student data that covers July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025, you will not be eligible for this year's Pell program. So that is the cohort we are using to determine eligibility for this year's Pell. I am sorry to share that news with you. If you started collecting in January, congratulations, that's fantastic. That means I'd have to, because I hate thinking about cohorts out loud, I'd have to get back to you about when it is that you will be eligible, but chances are it may be either next year or the year after that you'll start to be able to be eligible. Feel free to chime in, Paul. I have my Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Paul Tattery, here on the,
Hey,
and
everyone.
Tom Hilliard, who you've already met, is our Senior Policy Advisor on in our post-secondary non-degree area.
All
I'm
right.
sure there are a million questions. I can't see them. I'm glad, or else I'd be chattering away.
Yep.
So.
There are a lot of questions. Again, we'll continue to review them as well. We are just about at the end of our technical assistance workshop. Again, we know more questions might come up as you begin looking through the parameters, looking through the templates. We encourage you to reach out to the email address that Leslie provided in the chat. We'll also do a follow-up email to all those who registered for the session as well, too. Any final words, Leslie?
Thank you very much, and I hope I was able to provide some clarity for you. Please do look over the PowerPoint deck, which will get sent out to you within 24 hours, I hope, and take a look at the links. I think a lot of the answers to your questions might be in those links, but we'll be getting back to you with any answers we can provide as soon as possible. Thanks again, everybody. Enjoy the beautiful day.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everyone.